up. I was pissed. Well, Mama ended up coming back in early April. By this time, my mama had to do everything for me except brush my teeth. Meanwhile, I'm still seeing a psychiatrist. I continue to request to see somebody my age that looked like me. They were never able to produce. When it was time for my mama to leave in May, I had an emotional breakdown, which caused her to stay 2 weeks longer. Then when the 2 weeks were up, I was completely frozen. Numb. I couldn't move. My mama was crying, knocking on the neighbors' doors, calling folks on the phone so that she wouldn't miss her flight. But no matter what she did or said, I literally couldn't move. After Mama left, I fell even deeper into a depressive state of mind. When I didn't have chemotherapy treatment and not at work, I was literally in the bed. Things are rapidly getting worse. I'm going to work. Well, I'm going to a building because for 8 months, I went into the office and I sat at my desk hopelessly in a daze. On about July 6th, one of my closest friends came here from Michigan. I had a psychiatry appointment on July 9th at 9 a.m. By 10 p.m., I was being admitted to the psych ward. This was as a result of me admitting that I had tried to take some pain pills about 3 weeks prior with no success. Now, when you're in the psych ward, everybody on the same floor. It doesn't matter if you're anxious, depressed, schizophrenic, paranoia, bipolar, HIV positive, heroin addict, everybody on the same floor. They told me that I had to submit a written request to be discharged, and it wouldn't be reviewed until 72 hours. By the way, that's 3 days. While I was there, men and women were trying to holler. One of the workers there told me that if I didn't get my ass together, she would see me there again. Another worker said that if he wasn't married, he'd do me. He said if I was so concerned about people smelling the pouch, then Bath and Body Works was having a sale on smell goods. After being there for 3 days, I was given the option of discharge. Now, my body said it was time to get up out of there. But my mind started saying, I'm scared. What happens when I start feeling like I no longer want to deal with the foolishness? That I'm inadequate. Brian, by this time, I had lost like 60 pounds. My skin was dry and ashy. My hands and feet were dark and cracking. My hair was a wreck because I had been wearing the same braids for about 3 months. So Rev told me it was time for me to leave that place, and he was coming to get me. So my friend Marlon told me to come and stay with him and his wife for the weekend, so I obliged. That Monday, I was supposed to start a day program at Shepherd Pratt. Because of my depressive state and continuous suicidal thoughts, I was encouraged to go to do this intensive therapy for at least 2 weeks. Now, mind you, I hadn't been to work in almost 2 weeks at this point. That morning, when it was time for me to go to the program, guess what? I froze up. Once again, my body and my mind didn't allow me to move. So my friend Gay said, she'll come and get me, and she'll take me to the day program. Let me just tell you, Gay lived about 35, 40 minutes away from me. And the day program is about 30 minutes in the opposite direction. But for the next 2 weeks, Gay made that trip to and from the hospital. At the end of my intensive treatment, I didn't feel any differently. Therefore, I decided that I would continue the program for another week. I ended up going to the program for 3.5 weeks. However, those same feelings that I was having on March 24th, I was still having in August. So my friend Ebony started coming to pick me up and taking me to her house in PG County every weekend for about a month. During this time, Karima told me to come to her house to get some clothes. While at her house, she forced me to try on dresses, skirts, and shorts. Now, mind you, I hadn't worn anything fitted or that would show my legs since December because I felt I was too small and that my pouch would bulge from under my clothes. Well, for the first time, I looked in the mirror and I felt like I just might like what I see. So I'm still going to Ebony's house every weekend. One weekend, we went to the mall. For the first time in months, I was able to go into a store, try on clothes, and not have a convulsion. So from that day on, I started shopping. And I still been shopping. I built my clothes game up. So last weekend, well, a couple weekends ago, I went to Ebony's house again. But this time it was a little bit different. We went out to a lounge on Friday, and when men started checking for me, I was like, okay, I like this. I even started eating chicken. That's when I started eating chicken. So I eat chicken now, y'all. Haven't eaten chicken in like 6 years. I eat chicken now. Now, Saturday, Eb and I went to the National Harbor, and then on Sunday, I literally had a breakthrough. I woke up and read the following on Facebook. It said, the most painful tears are not the ones that fall from your eyes and cover your face. It's the ones that fall from your heart and cover your soul. Brian, tears wouldn't stop running down my face. Can I just tell you, I had become so numb that I could no longer cry. Well, this day, I couldn't stop crying. I then started crying so hard that I nearly had an anxiety attack. Ebony kept asking, girl, what's wrong? What's wrong? Say something. Who died? And I said, the old Shontee died. So that day, I put a dress on, and we went to church. We then shopped till we dropped. She was like, I'm just saying, do we got to do all the shopping in one day? I was like, I'm making up for the last 9 months. Okay, so on Monday, I started my new journey. So on Monday, I went to the dentist. I got my hair colored. I went shopping. I even went on a date. So my friend, I'm gonna change his name. My friend, Andre 3000, and we went back to the same restaurant that we had ate at for our first date about a year ago. And then after that, guess what? I went to his house. And I told him everything. Everything. His response to me was, so you spending the night? So I was like, my story don't scare you? He was like, no. So I then asked him if my circumstance was the reason why he had decided last year that he couldn't no longer date anybody with the potential of losing another person so near and dear to this devastating illness that they call cancer. He then said he wants to get his head out the sand and he wanted to know. So guess what? I decided that I would no longer be angry with him and that I would put my guards down. The next day I went to work. I was wearing a dress. I had my new hair. I had my new attitude. I'll tell you. And when I walked on campus, I felt like a celebrity. I was getting all kinds of compliments. It was encouraging me. I felt so free. I began to tell people my story. The story that had been kept secret for 9 months. The next day, I went to dinner with someone that would prove to be godsend. Geraldine is a 45-year-old model, author, woman of God, drop dead gorgeous, and has a hell of a testimony. At the age of 2, she was diagnosed with a rare form of cancer in her vagina. As a result, she ended up with a colostomy, a urostomy, and no hose. She was then connected to 2 pouches that would hold her stool and her urine. The crazy thing is that for 9 months, I kept saying, show me somebody that looked like me. But they couldn't produce. So a couple weeks ago, I created a new Facebook page, no picture, the name Sean Mack. I started looking at various sites that deal strictly with ostomies. So as I was scrolling through the national magazine called The Phoenix, I see a black woman on the cover. So I started scrolling. So I click on it, and I send her a message. And I say, I see you on the cover of The Phoenix. Does that mean you have an ostomy? So she wrote me back, and she said, I have two. So I was like, oh, my God, would you mind talking to me? I am struggling. I'm having a really hard time. I'm dealing with depression, self-esteem, all of it. So she said, call me or text me this weekend. I want to get with you next week so we can sit down and have a real conversation. Guess what? Geraldine lived 5 minutes away from me. I've been living in Baltimore for 13 years, and I have never seen this woman before. So we met, and I began to share my story with her. She then told me that I have to share my story with the world. She told me that I have a gift, that I have a way of drawing people in when I start talking. Brian, when I sat with this lady, it's like I was sitting with another me. Besides, she don't have natural hair. It's like she's another Shontee. The way she talks, she say, and guess what? And guess what? And when you tell your story, and guess what? The devil gonna be so mad, so you're gonna have to keep on telling your story. So she was like, the devil tried to use my story, but I had already told it. She was like, so he was mad. So guess what? I had to keep on telling it. So she was like, and that's what you got to do. She said, your story may not be in written form because they need to see you. They need to see how you move your mouth, how you do all that. They need to see that. So I was like, okay. So Geraldine was like, guess what? You my friend for life. I was like, to sure. So that Thursday, I went on a date with another dude. His name, we're going to call him Antoine. So he and I have been friends for about 2 years, but we never took our relationship to the next level. When I started telling him about my surgery and the ostomy, he stood up. He raised his shirt to show me where he had been cut from his penis to his chest. He then showed me a mark on either side of his abdomen. When he was 12 years old, he had gotten shot and had to wear 2 pouches, just like Geraldine. I then started telling him that I wanted to reconnect with Zarian, but I have to wait for the courts to give clearance due to his false allegations. Antoine then tells me about how he let his teenage boy cousin come live with him a few years ago. At some point, the boy's father came back into the picture. Well, he was hit with back child support from all his kids. So he convinced the boy to conjure up a story. So the boy told the police that Antoine and his mama beat him every day from sun up to sundown. So guess what? They locked him up. Antoine was facing 60 years in the city and 60 years in the county. So they told his mother, they say, well, if you just admit it was just Antoine that beat the boy, we'll drop your charges, because she was a school teacher for Baltimore City. And she said, I will not, because my cousin didn't do that. And if he did hit him, he deserved it, because the boy is off the chain. So, after 3 years and $100,000, Antoine was finally cleared of all charges. So he said, Shontee, I know exactly what you've been going through. Because not only did he and I have those similar stories, his mom was also diagnosed with cancer last year. Well, we decided to then go to the movies to see The Butler. While we were watching the movie, Antoine noticed on the screen they showed the numbers 3 and 9. He said to me, 3 represents resurrection, and 9 represents birth. I showed him my journal. In my journal, I had boxed the number 3 everywhere I wrote it, and I circled the number 9. I said, wow, did you know that when I broke my ankle playing softball a few years ago, I broke it in 3 places? My cousin, my cousin Hanukkah, who is 10 years older than me, I swear we're one and the same. Not only did we graduate from the same high school, we graduated from the same college. We pledged the same sorority. And guess what? We were the same 9 number. We were both number 3s. You don't choose your line number. Your line number is chosen for you. So again, for 9 months, I asked them to show me somebody who looked like me. So Brian, I'm clear that God has great things in store for me. I am a much better version of what I used to be. It's like I was literally reborn. The sun started shining. The light came back on. So I've decided to document my story. I'm starting my PhD program in January. I'm getting ready to take motorcycle lessons. My daddy used to ride Harley Davidson. I got a brand new wardrobe. I scheduled a few trips. And this year was my 20-year class reunion. So the crew, everybody in the crew, put your hand downstairs, you're not in the crew. So the crew, we decided, it's 7 of us in the crew. We decided that we're gonna go to LA for Christmas and New Year's. I've also decided to reconnect with Zarian. I bought a sewing machine, started doing arts and crafts. So I'm able to come up with things, and I'm able to do stuff and come up with ideas at work. Right, Ms. Reed? Okay, come up with way better than I used to. So, guess what? I decided I'm gonna go hard in the paint. I'm gonna live, I'm gonna laugh, and I'm gonna love hard. So last year around this time, I said that we had like 20 people. We did game night. Everybody that was here last year at game night, raise your hand. If you wasn't here, you're here this year. We had a good time. So we started out with 20 people this year. So I was like, you know what? Just my new self. I'm gonna invite this person too. So that's why we're here today on October 5th. All right. But believe me when I tell you, the devil has already been busy. He is so mad. I realized a long time ago, the devil always try to attack me in 3 ways. My stomach, my head, and my family. A couple Fridays ago, my stomach was going crazy. I had all kind of accidents with my pouch. I had an accident for 5 days in a row. So while I was in the tub, my bowels started going crazy. I then became real nauseous. I literally thought I was going to throw up my guts. After I broke into an uncontrollable sweat, I had to turn on the air conditioner and lay down. While I was in the bed, guess what? I got a call from Shaka. She said, Sean Mack, the nurse called me. And they say they're concerned about Clyde. Because he's not really doing what he's supposed to be doing. I'm not going to put him all the way out there. But he's not doing what he's supposed to be doing. My stomach, my head, my family. About 2 weeks ago, when I was trying to make this thing happen, I was calling, and I was like, well, guess what? Why don't you do this? And you fly here, and you drive here, and y'all do this, and y'all do this. So I called my sister, Tamir, who lives in Chicago. And I say, Tamir, guess what? Why don't you drive to Saginaw, get in the car with Shaka, and then y'all just drive here? And she was like, I appreciate how you trying so hard to make this happen, but I got something I need to tell you. She was like, remember when I had that surgery in July? Oh yeah, I have sarcoma. That's a rare cancer of the tissue. So my oldest sister, we just found out has cancer. So mind you, when we did the genealogy, there is no way I should have gotten it. Now my sister has it. So I processed it. And I called her back. And I said, guess what? I've already played this game. I won. So you don't have a choice but to win. We've seen this before. Now you got the ball, you got to play, but we got this. My stomach, my head, my family. So 2 days ago, I got a call while I was at work. And my doctor said, I got the results. Because last week, I had to go take a bunch of tests. And he said, well, your vitamin D count is extremely low. So this means you're going to have to take medication twice a day, probably for the rest of your life. And your bones going to probably start deteriorating. And he was like, but that ain't it. He was like, your ovaries are completely burnt out. He said the radiation and the chemo took them down. He was like, so this means you're going to start going into premenopause. So you'll never have a cycle again. So you know what that means. You can't have kids. That was 2 days ago. So I was like, ooh, that was a blow. But I said, guess what? Bria, the 16-year-old, my foster niece, is pregnant. So Bria and the baby are coming to live with me. So that means not only will I help raise this child, but I'm help raise her child. And my friend Hankins said, guess what? I carry the baby for you. So I realized that while I may not be able to have kids of my own, I have kids of my own. So it's a little bit more, but that's pretty much the gist of it. It was some more stuff about Clyde. Anybody that know me know how I feel. Clyde is my daddy, and I have always called him Clyde. But anybody who know me know how I feel about my daddy. So when my sister called me again and said that they called me again, and then when Rev and I called Clyde on the three-way, and Rev say, Clyde, man, what's going on, bro? Clyde said, same old nada. And Rev say, how you doing, brother? Clyde said, not too worse. So it went on. I said, Clyde, guess what? You faked me out. You told me you was going to go to this facility for 2 weeks. And he was like, nah, baby girl, got me this new nurse. She real pretty. I like her. She got long hair. So Rev said, oh, man, Clyde, you faked us out. Clyde say, I'm straight, man. And that's it. So that's my story. That's my story. So I realized that's why when my coworkers say to me, Slim, pump your brakes, slow down, I say, turn down for what? Because I was dead for 9 months. My only fear was death, and I tried to kill myself. I don't have any more fears. So that's why I'm now able to have all these people here to celebrate, because it's a celebration, and that's what it is. So while I'm standing here, I want to acknowledge a few people. Or whatever. So everybody probably know my mama. So my mama came out here in September, and my mama just went home in May. My Sans Jackson came out here in September, stayed here until December, came back in January, stayed for another month. And then Alexis was the one who was doing all the research, because it was too much information for me. I couldn't process it. Cancer, rectum, colostomy, pouch, what, all of this, it was too much. So Alexis is the one who came here in July and took me when I ended up in the psych ward. So when I told my supervisor I was in the hospital, he said, "You doing physical therapy?" Not that kind of therapy. So, my siblings, all of my siblings are here for the first time. My younger sister, Shaka, from Sag Nasty. My niece, my mini-me, everybody knows. Here's Kayla. And here's my nephew, me.